Today we're going to talk about the moral code of yoga, and it's called Yama and Niyama. I'm going to be using some Sanskrit words today because there's really no English word that describes what we're talking about quite as well. So Yama and Niyama, or the moral code, is basically to create a mental equilibrium or balance, which we need in order to practice meditation and other spiritual practices. Also, this moral code is a bit different than you might be used to in that it's a relative moral code. So depending on time, place, and person, it can change. So you have to think about the particular situation in order to know how to respond or act in any situation. Our guru, Sri Sri Anandamurti, has said, morality is the base, sadhana, or meditation, is the way, and life divine is the goal. So unless we have a moral base, or that mental equilibrium, you can't truly progress on the spiritual path. Yama includes 5 principles. The first is called ahimsa. Ahimsa means non-injury. So himsa actually means harm, and ahimsa means not to harm. So this is not to harm by thought, word, or action. We usually think, oh, somebody does an action to harm someone. Someone hits another person, say. But it's not just that. We're trying to create mental equilibrium. So that means we don't want to harm anyone, even by our thoughts or words. Words can be very damaging, harsh words. So these are things that we want to avoid in our spiritual morality. Sometimes people have the wrong interpretation of ahimsa. For example, they may say, well, you can't kill a mosquito, or you can't kill cockroaches that are invading your home, or you can't defend yourself when someone's attacking you, but they're going to harm you, which is also against ahimsa. So we have to defend ourselves. It's not like you can let people just run all over you. So that's not part of ahimsa. Because you have to think of the whole situation. If cockroaches invade your home, you're not going to have a place to live. If someone attacks you, you could be killed, and that's harming. So it's important to have the right interpretation and not take it to extremes. The next one is called satya, and this is translated as benevolent truthfulness. So, we may not be the best to always say the exact truth, but we want to use words so that it's helpful to those that we interact with. So I'll give an example. Say there's a woman that comes to your door. She's kind of frantic, and she says that someone's chasing her that is going to likely cause her some harm. So you invite her in the house. You say, oh, wait in this room here. And then the man comes to the door and asks if you've seen this woman that he's looking for. And you say, what do you say? Do you tell the truth? Say, oh yeah, she's in here and right over there. No, that's going to cause her harm. So you say, I don't know, I haven't seen her. There's nobody here. And then the man goes on. So that's just an example of the right use of words, which is not always exactly the truth. The next principle we'll talk about is asteya, which means non-stealing. But it's not just non-stealing by the physical action, it's also mentally. Even if I'm thinking like, oh, there's a nice ukulele there, I could just pick it up and walk off, nobody's watching. I could play some nice music on that. But then I don't actually take it. Still, that has an effect on my mind. That disturbs my mental balance because I'm thinking of stealing. but I'm not actually stealing. So that's a part of asteya as well. Then the fourth topic here is called brahmacharya. Brahmacharya means to ascribe godhood to everything, basically. You realize that everything in this universe comes from that divine essence. In that way, whatever we come across, whatever we see, whether it's a plant, an animal, human being, we want to treat it with the ultimate respect that you would treat something from the cosmic consciousness, because that's basically where everything comes from. The fifth principle of Yama is aparigraha, which means to live simply, not to take more than you need to live a comfortable life. And this can vary a lot depending on the place, the country, the person, the time. What people needed 100 years ago is different than what you might need today. Depending on the type of life you live, you may need more things than someone who lives a more simple life that doesn't have as much work to do on this planet. It's hard for the society to determine exactly what the needs are of each individual. But they can set some basic guidelines so things don't get too far out of hand, where someone has billions of dollars and 20 homes and other people are starving. So there's some guidelines that need to be set. But basically, this is an individual effort that people need to understand and try to live as simply as possible. So now we'll talk about the Niyama part of the moral code. And Niyama means observances. And it also has 5 principles. The first one is called shaocha. And shaocha means internal and external cleanliness. External cleanliness, we're all familiar. You want to clean your house, you clean your body, wash the dishes, all those things to keep your environment and yourself clean. That's pretty doable. But the other part of that is internal cleanliness, or mental purity. That's more difficult because we have so many thoughts during the day. And some are negative, some are positive, some are angry, some are expressing some emotions mentally. So many things to control. So that's part of what the meditation is about, to help control that mental purity, keep that mental purity. The next one is called santosha. Santosha is basically mental contentment. So we want to avoid things like excessive greed. Things that, I got to make more money, I got to do this, I got to buy a new car. So many things that we want according to our desires. I want to eat more, eat more of this, more of that. I want to gather more possessions. That affects your mental contentment. Basically, we want to be happy with what we have. Not that we don't want to improve our condition and be a little more comfortable than we are, but we want to maintain our contentment. The third principle is called tapa. Tapa means serving others without expecting anything in return. Selfless service, basically. And this is really good for curing basically selfishness. And that's a problem if you want to progress spiritually and you're selfish. The best medicine for that is to serve others, serve humanity, give things away, help those that are more in need than you are. But at the same time, we want to have some discrimination. We don't want to be helping people that are better off than us, or someone who's wealthy and doesn't need our help. We want to make sure that who we're helping needs the help. And not only human beings, but animals and plants that need our help. So that's tapa. And the next one is called svadhyaya. And some would interpret that as reading the scriptures. But we can read the scriptures, but the scriptures may not always be correct, or they may be, we may not understand them. So the main thing on svadhyaya is understanding all the spiritual topics, having a good understanding. And whether you read the scripture or not, that's not the most important thing. It's just understanding. The fifth principle of Niyama is Ishvara pranidhana, which means to establish oneself in the cosmic idea through meditation. Ishvara means controller of the universe, where pranidhana means to understand clearly or to take shelter in. So the idea is to take shelter in that supreme consciousness. It's surely important not to steal, not to harm, not to tell lies. But just as important is to remove the tendency to do those things. Because if we have the tendency, but we don't do it, it's still affecting our mental balance, our equilibrium. So that's the real goal of this moral code of Yama Niyama. The other thing to know is that it's not easy. This is a lifelong endeavor to be able to follow these principles in the best way. And we're all just trying. So if you make a mistake, just recognize that and be determined to do a better job in your next experience.